Good morning. I'm going to call the meeting to order for the Board of Supervisors for November 6th. Roll call.
Supervisor Bennett?
I understand he's going to be a little late, so he's voting.
Supervisor Parks?
Here.
Supervisor Long?
Here.
Supervisor Foy?
Here.
Supervisor Zaragoza?
Here. And today, you know, it's Veterans Day is coming up, and so we have a couple of special people that are going to speak to us today, Movement of Inspiration, Mike McManus, and also Rob Greitz, and Mike. And then they're going to help us with the pledge to our flag.
Supervisors, thank you for this opportunity and for your support of veterans. I know it means a lot to them and to myself as well, the support that we get from you. I'm Mike McManus, the County of Ventura Veteran Service Officer. I became the county's Veteran Service Officer in January 25th of 2010. Prior to assuming those duties, I worked in the private sector for Baxter Healthcare, a large biotech pharma company, as a training development manager. However, prior to that, prior to working in the private sector, I held a variety of leadership positions in the Air Force the last 7 years as a first sergeant, overseeing all enlisted personnel within my units. I had many assignments overseas and stateside, as well as 3 major deployments: Operation Allied Force, Operation Southern Watch, and the last being Operation Iraqi Freedom, in the early stages of the war, and then ultimately retiring after 20 years, and I retired out of Navy Base, Ventura County, Port Hueneme. Since becoming the Veteran Service Officer, it's been my pleasure to lead a group of dedicated employees and interns as we assist veterans get connected with their federal and state benefits as well as local resources. In fact, last fiscal year we assisted 2,600 people. We fielded over 12,600 phone calls. We're reaching more veterans every year. Of course, more work can be done, and we'll continue to do that. I'd like to encourage every veteran that's here today, as well as any family members, to call the office 477-5155 so that we can assist them as well. It's now my pleasure to honor Mr. Robert Greitz. Mr. Greitz, he was born in Queens, New York. He was raised in Brooklyn. He's now 78, and he said I could tell you that. Of course, in 1952, at the age of 18, is when he enlisted in the Air Force. And of course, the Korean War was going on at the time. However, his particular city didn't hold the opportunities he was looking for, so he thought the GI Bill was the right way to go, so he enlisted in the Air Force. Now, after basic training in the Finger Lakes region of New York, Mr. Greitz was sent to Cheyenne, Wyoming for his technical training school as a communication center specialist. He next boarded a ship for St. John's, Newfoundland, so obviously someone thought that his skills were needed there as opposed to Korea. He was part of the DEW line, or the Distance Early Warning System, which of course at the time, 1952, people thought the Soviets were going to be coming across Siberia for a first strike. So he was an operator in a radar site that were spaced throughout Newfoundland, Labrador, and Greenland. Eventually, these sites became obsolete as we became to rely on satellites. After his overseas assignment, he completed his enlistment at Travis Air Force Base, and after his final 17 months there, it caused him to fall in love with California, and someplace he came to call home, and he's resided here ever since. So, Mr. Greitz, if you would please come forward and lead us in the moment of inspiration.
And welcome. I think he says he likes to be called Rob. Welcome, Rob.
Thank you. For the moment of inspiration, I'm going to do the poem in Flanders Fields written by John McCrae. He was a member of the Canadian Forces. At 41, he enlisted. He could have become a surgeon, but he chose to be a fighting man. And he was with an artillery company. And he wrote this poem in March of 1915. And this is our spiritual moment. In Flanders fields the poppies blow, between the crosses row on row. They mark our place, and in the sky the lark still bravely singing flies sacred herd amid the guns below. We are the dead. Short days ago we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe. To you from failing hands we throw the torch. Be yours to hold it high. If we break faith with us who die, we shall never sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders Field. And the Pledge of Allegiance If you're able, please rise. Gentlemen, remove your hats. Place your right hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Rob, thank you tremendously, and thank all the veterans, and again...
Oh, man, may I mention, we have some here.
Can you please stand, all the veterans? And thank you so much for your... Thank you so much. And I was sharing with Rob and Mike, that, and I've said it over and over again, that my dad was Second World War, and all the way to, we had family all the way to Iraq, so I really, really, admire and commend all the veterans, and thank you for service to our country. Thank you so much again. Okay, our next item, we have item 5, the minutes of October 16th. It's a pleasure of the board. Okay, you got a motion and a second. Okay, Roberta?
I don't have any
There's no,
motion. My screen's not cooperating.
okay. Got a Long and Bennett, okay.
I'm not getting a vote screen. I say aye.
Aye all the way across. Okay, that is approved. Our next item is agenda review. Michael?
Thank you, Chair Zaragoza. Just a couple of items. Item 20, time certain item, request that be rescheduled for a later date.
What item is that, I'm sorry?
Item
20.
20.
It's a reschedule in that.
And request to add addendum agenda item 29, authorization to grant Sheriff's Safety Management employees the ability to direct their flexible credit allowance to the Ventura County Deputy Sheriff's Association union-sponsored medical plans. And addendum agenda item 30, recommendation of Supervisor Long to appoint Mark Andrew Austin to the Parks Advisory Commission. And that's it.
Okay, supervisors, any changes or additions to the agenda? See none. Okay, so we need a motion.
Move the agenda, second the agenda.
Okay, we're going to first and second.
I'm working now.
Okay,
And I need to vote.
and that's approved. Okay, item 7, we have agenda items 10 to 16. Any concerns or additions, subtractions? Okay, it's a pleasure of the board. And we got a first and a second. And that's approved. Under public comments, I have 2 speakers, Tim Hackett and Jim McGee, and Supervisor Long, you want to share?
Yes, thank you. I invited Mr. Hockett here. Tim is in the board. Where is he? There he is, right
Okay.
there. I'm sorry, Tim. Tim is going to speak to us. He's the new Executive Director of Community Action of Ventura County. And I had the opportunity to meet and talk with him and get acquainted. Just a little brief bio on Tim. He was born and raised in California, attended Columbian Christian College in Oregon, and moved to Washington State to become Executive Director of a large nonprofit. Spent 23 years there. He has now joined us here in Ventura County, and he'll talk about what the mission of the community action is, and also to welcome him to Ventura County as our new executive director there. So, welcome, Tim.
Welcome, Tim.
Well, thank you very much, Supervisor Long. Good morning, Supervisors. Happy Election Day. I'm excited to be here, not for least the warm, salubrious climate. I was telling Kathy that the warmest days in Port Angeles in the summer about 80 degrees. It's a pretty place, but I'm enjoying this warm weather. As you well know, Community Action has a mission to combat poverty. We do it two different ways. We try to help people survive poverty, food, clothing, shelter, access to medical attention. And then we try to help people rise above poverty. And that's harder. It usually requires education, nurture, and so forth. But we're in the trenches trying to do that. We're best known for energy assistance, weatherization programs, and so forth. But over in Oxnard, we also operate a transition center for homeless folks, and we see between 60 and 80 people a day. It's pretty tough work. But I'm glad to be involved and to help lead a tremendous team of people as we affect our mission and as we carry out the goals of trying to lift and strengthen this community by helping people that are at the bottom. I, as was mentioned, was with the Community Action Agency for 23 years. As part of my education, I lived as a minority, as a non-Jew. I attended the Hebrew University in Jerusalem for 4 years. I felt like a little bit of an alien in Berkeley in a PhD program there, but you know, I've loved my experiences. I'm determined to bring us more to the forefront in terms of advocacy, the programs that we provide, and also for the bridges that we build in partnerships. You can do three things for us, and I'll leave you with that. The first is that, of course, each of the districts has a slot for the board, and those positions are mostly filled. We'll let you know when there are openings, and we need good people on our board whom you appoint. The second thing is that from time to time, there are opportunities that come by, funding opportunities where the county either needs to take the lead, or we could sure appreciate a letter of support when it comes to that. The third thing is that you all become experts on the needs of the county. And when those needs impinge on or touch on the notion of poverty, I want you to remember who we are and give us a call. Whether we take the lead or support role with partners to address that need, you can bet that we'll be engaged. But please know that we're here, I'm here. I hope to get to know you all individually, and thank you so much for this opportunity to come see you. And good luck to those of you who are running for re-election.
Mr. Chair,
Chair Q.
Steve,
if I could, I just want to say welcome.
Thank you.
Appreciate your commitment to the mission. You have a wonderful group of people that are committed to as you said, the poorest of amongst us here in Ventura County. And I would offer to you, from my perspective, your challenge is to refocus your organization so that there's a real sense of clarity in terms of your mission and in terms of your effectiveness. Quite frankly, as we've tried to work with you guys, it's felt scattered, it's felt unfocused, and it hasn't felt as effective as it could be. So I just want to take this opportunity to publicly throw that challenge out to you. And it's not for lack of tremendous commitment by your board, by people, et cetera. But I really think it comes from the leadership at the executive director level. Has to be a special kind of leadership that is focused, completely on the mission, getting it done, and sort of rippling your impact out there. And
Thank you so much for that. I came from a large community action agency that operated Head Start on one end and senior nutrition, Meals on Wheels on the other end, home care. And I was able not only to bring my vision, but to weave that vision together toward larger goals. And I'm looking forward to doing that here.
Well, to the extent that you can, you have partners
thank
here.
you.
Right. Thank you very much.
Supervisor Long.
And thank you. And we've had that conversation, and it's good to see Jill Martinez here too. Certainly a strong advocate for the work of the partnership, and talked about and appreciate what you had to say, Tim. To work with us and to work with all of the advocates in the community who really want to work together to leverage resources to really help those in poverty. So it's great to have you here.
Thank you, Tim.
I just also welcome you, and I know that the Commission has seen dry times and then some times when they've actually got a lot of funding, and it's nice to be able to have those funds and to efficiently see that they go to the right place. I wish you the best of luck, and it's nice to see you here, quite frankly.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And Jill
Have a great
Martinez,
day.
too. Thank you for being here.
Good to see you, Jill.
Okay, Jim McGee.
And also, Mr. Chair, thank you. I invited Jim here, as all of you have met Jim. He's our leader in the Ventura County Red Cross, to give us an update on the local response on Sandy, and to give him an opportunity to all of the county family listening to hear what ways can we help and what can we do to both support the response and the engagement of Red Cross. So thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Supervisor Long. Thank you, Supervisors. It's great seeing you guys again. Thank you, Mr. Powers, for having me. First of all, I'm just standing here today very proud of our local Red Cross, your local Red Cross. As of this morning, we've deployed 42 local team members who are on the ground back east, helping our friends and families recover from that devastating storm. 38 of those 42 team members are volunteers who have given up dozens and dozens of hours and days of their time, not only preparing for this moment, but now committing at least 2 weeks of their time to go back east. Following that, we have several dozen more volunteers in the queue. And currently we have 3 of our emergency response vehicles leaving from Camarillo this morning at 9:15 heading east. We are now providing resources on top of people. So I speak here as the CEO of the Red Cross, just very proud to be part of this organization. And most of all, I just want to say thank you to the board and to all of our leaders out there who have provided tremendous support, not just of the Red Cross, but building a strong, prepared, resilient Ventura County. That's been the focus of the EPC and a number of my partners on the government side and other social agencies. They're doing great work and making sure we're prepared. It's great for me to get a phone call from the CEO of New Jersey to ask for help, to ask for resources from New York, from other states. At some point, I'm going to be picking up the phone and asking for help from my colleagues back east. So I want to say thank you to the board. I want to say thank you to my partners. And I also want to say thank you to our community, who has shown tremendous generosity in supporting and funding the mission of the Red Cross. We're congressionally chartered to provide mass care. That means when something happens like Superstorm Sandy, the Red Cross is expected to be there with cots, with shelters, with food, with basic medical support, yet we receive no government funding. So everything that we've done, all the resources that have allowed us to send these 42 team members has been because of the local support of our community. So for that, I want to say thank you to our community for their continued generosity and support.
And Jim, also, I want to thank you for being a member of the EPC. You've been very, involved with the local Emergency Planning Council. And of course, it's important that we help our folks back east. I want to thank you for that.
Thank you, Supervisor.
And Jim, for those who might be listening, how might they contribute, help?
Yeah, so two immediate needs. First of all, the hidden tragedy in this storm is the fact that we've taken hundreds of blood donation drives offline. So if you are willing and able to donate blood, go to redcross.org. We collect 14,000 units of blood a day as the Red Cross, and those are now offline, and we're getting into a very serious time of the year where, with the Red Cross managing over 50% of the nation's blood supply, we need blood. So you can go to redcross.org and donate. If you're part of a school or an organization that wants to set up a blood drive, you can also go to 1-877-RED-CROSS to donate blood. Secondly, the most important thing our community can do is we need to be prepared. This is a great wake-up call and reminder that everyone who lives here, works here, goes to school here, has to have a plan for at home. So you can go to redcross.org, you can go to readyventuracounty.org and find all the free information we need as responsible citizens to make sure we have the supplies, we have a plan, and we know how to respond to a disaster. Because as I mentioned earlier, at some point we are going to be calling for help east, and we need to make sure that as citizens here in Ventura County, we're prepared. Thank you very much.
Good.
And also to the board members, I know that Laura Hernandez has been sending updates on what's happening over in back east, so we want to thank her too, for keeping us up to speed on what's happening there too.
Laura, Sheriff Dean,
Sheriff
Chief Lorenzen, tremendous partners along with yourselves to our American Red Cross, so thank you.
It's also a great opportunity to volunteer, too. I know my daughter in college went to Katrina through the Red Cross, and what a valuable experience it was for her. But it's nice to be able to give if you've got the time.
Absolutely.
Michael?
Just commend Jim also for his leadership. There's something special going on in our local Red Cross here. A lot of momentum, a great talented team that you've built and helping us be prepared. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Okay. Our next item is board comments. Supervisor Foy.
No, just a very special day when we get to exercise our rights to vote, and so I ask everybody to do that. If you want to have influence on who has influence over you, I think it's an opportunity. So thank you, and good day.
Supervisor Long.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to those two public speakers. And I have a list to ask to adjourn in memory of. As always, some of these on the list are former veterans, Navy pilot, CB, Navy machinist second class. I mean, good people in the community who passed and will be missed and gave mightily to their country and honor Veterans Day as we remember them. And yes, please encourage everyone, go out and vote. Makes you feel big and strong. Go vote.
Thank you.
Okay.
Supervisor Parks.
Thank you. In honor of Veterans Day, I want to call out two individuals in my district who have died and both served their nation in the Army. And one is Sebastian Leonard Saputo, and the other is Howard J. Pincus. And I'd also ask that we close in honor of the people on this list. My dad was in the last Cavalry, so I just go, yes, you go back there. And it's nice to be able to honor our veterans. Also, there was a nice article, and I'll pass this on to the board, featuring Mary Marinville. Wasn't that nice? I don't know if you had seen this, but it's a nice feature. She does farm education to children, so it's nice to see her getting recognition for a great program, and teachers who are interested in bringing their classes to the farm fields and teaching children that food grows from the ground, not from refrigerators at the grocery store. Can learn a lot. I had the pleasure of touring what will, hopefully we'll have a nice ribbon cutting at our Conejo Valley Family Clinic out in Thousand Oaks. So that's open and going strong, and there's an incredible demand there that's being filled. So it's probably saving some dollars of people not having to drive all the way to the West County to get service, and saving some pollution too. So it's nice to have that in our local community. And I also had a very successful quarterly dinner event with Rick Cole and Mike Siddell. It was very enjoyable, and heard about the role of city managers. Also, I wanted to point out I attended a SCAG, but also a Southern California Association of Government meeting on transportation, and we put it together with active transportation and public health and sustainability. And one of the slides that was presented to us yesterday, I just really stood out, so I thought I would share that with you. And it shows obesity trends in the United States. We talk about how we need to have our communities more amenable to bike paths and walking and helping to get people up and moving. Of course, diet has a big part in it too. But it just shows the trends from 1990. The percentage of the United States where people were obese is around 10 to 14%, 10% really. In the year 2000, that obesity trend started going towards 15 to 19%. And then in 2010, we're looking at a quarter of the population. So it just really shows, I think, some pretty startling things about trends for our population and what that means to our healthcare system, too. Let's see. There's also a good conference going on for women particularly. The Ventura County Healthcare Agency is participating in it, Women's Health in 2013. This is on in Friday, November 9th and Saturday, November 10th, and I believe that's at the fairgrounds. And we have some great people from our healthcare agency, Dr. Lambine, Dr. Amy David, who was members or helped in the senior summit too. So it's good to see that getting out there and learning about everything from Pregnancy 101 to women's health to our bodies, our minds. So that's a nice conference that is available. And I think, and then finally, we're having a Ventura Park Fire Safety Fair. They're going to be installing some signs in Ventura Park to encourage people not to park on the road during days like today, red flag days, because the roads are so narrow up there that it'll be very difficult for fire trucks to get up in an emergency. And then you have that complicated by people wanting to evacuate. So really trying to encourage people to stay off the narrow, windy roads up there. So we're having a fire safety fair at Stagecoach Park right down the bottom of the hill there on Saturday, this coming Saturday, 11 to 1, and the Kiwanis are going to be barbecuing for us. And Robbie, the firefighter, will be there. Mm-hmm. The 10-foot firefighter, inflatable with poor guy on the inside, but it's the most fun thing ever. So I encourage people to get out there and come to the fair. So. And I think that concludes my comments. Oh, and then it's Election Day. And I would be dressed up, red, white, and blue, but I could never, ever, even match Supervisor Long, so I just give up. and I wish our supervisor, who's up for election, a hearty re-election.
Supervisor Bennett.
Thank you very much. I'd like to ask the board to adjourn in memory of this list. And then I just have one thing that is important for me to get said today before we get election results. But, this morning we just saw in the Los Angeles Times and the newspaper that the beginning of the end of a concerted effort to hide where the money was coming from has just happened. It's not a coincidence that it happens on Election Day here. I mean, they have been successful in hiding where the money has come from. And as bad as the Citizens United decision was of the Supreme Court, and I think 100 years from now we will refer to it like we refer to the Dred Scott decision or the Plessy versus Ferguson decision where the Supreme Court legalized segregation in this country. We will look back on this and say that 5-4 decision, those were 5-4 decisions, that 5-4 decision of the Supreme Court was absolutely one of the worst decisions of the Supreme Court. But as bad as it was, the Supreme Court strongly affirmed the right of citizens to know where the money was coming from and the right of legislatures to pass common sense rules to determine where the money is coming from. And so I want to emphasize that it is happening here in Ventura County. It is happening here in the state of California. It is happening here in the country. Tremendous amounts of money, and that's what they just found out this morning with the revealing of this, that this was money that was laundered through organization after organization, so you can't trace who it is that's actually giving the money. But one of the fundamental rights, even by this current Supreme Court, was that we have a right to know where the money is coming from that pays for this political speech, because it is inherently part of trying to analyze the message that is out there. So I think the parallels between this and SOAR are so strong. When urban sprawl was spreading across Southern California, people consistently said, guys, you can't do anything about it. It's just how it is. That's where the big money is. They're going to get their way, etc. And people felt it was a core value of the citizens to say, we don't want to have this, but we don't know how to stop it, and they kind of just throw up their hands in frustration. And I would offer to you this issue of money in politics, and particularly where the money is coming from, has very, very similar parallels. And just like we were able in this county to do the same thing with SOAR, we can do that with money in politics also. It takes coming up with good common sense solutions that are workable, and it takes having the courage to fight the inevitable counterattack that will come to try to stop that. But I just want to tell you that today, regardless of the election results, I am dedicating myself, again, rededicating myself to trying to solve this problem all the way across the board. So if you want to live in a county where money isn't able to hide itself, if you want to live in a state, if you want to live in a country where money's not able to hide, that's the first part of the solution, because if we can reveal where the money is coming from, you will have growing and growing public support for taking the next step, which is limiting the ability of that money to buy the kind of influence that they need to buy. But if you want to be part of that effort, I just invite you to join me. I'm going to be coming back over and over again on this particular issue, because I think it's just unconscionable that what they can do is wait till the last minute, funnel it, hide it, and then they don't care about what the penalties are or anything else that happens after the election. And that fundamentally erodes where our democracy is at this point in time. We're at as bad a spot as we were back in the 1880s when the robber barons were literally buying seats in Congress, and we are moving that direction with where we are now, with some billionaires at the national level and other people at the state and local level having this kind of influence and being able to hide their money. So pardon me for getting on with this, but it is the right day for us to say that before the election results, but I just want to make sure that it is clear to people that I believe that's the challenge in front of us, and we can do it. We can solve this. People said it was impossible to stop urban sprawl. We were able to come up with something like SOAR that today the polling is over 80% of the people support a SOAR, and I believe you're going to find over 80% of the people are going to support efforts to try to at least find out where the money is and hold people accountable for following the rules that everybody else should follow in terms of where money is in politics. Thank you very much, and I hope everybody votes today.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you so much. And also I'd like to share with you that this coming weekend I'm going to be, and my staff, participating in the Oxnard High School competition for band competitions. We're going to have quite a few people or schools come in from Southern California. And also I'll be participating with the veterans event over at Oxnard on Sunday for the veterans with Steve Weber, and also with the Lions veterans on Monday. So we'll be doing that too. So, and I have numerous other items and events that I've attended, but I'm going to cut short. So that's all I have. And also I'm going to adjourn in memory of those folks in this list. And we'll go to item 25.
Good morning, Chair Zaragoza, members of the board, Mr. Powers, Barry Zimmerman, Human Services Agency. What's before you is an item that's a workforce investment item and a contract mod to increase a training contract with the Ventura Adult School, and in increasing that contract as well as the training dollars into the total contract, we're able to increase the total enrollments by 10. It is a training contract that focuses on allied health and other occupations that are training and skill based in order to secure employment for individuals who are underemployed or unemployed at this point in time.
Thank you, Barry. Any questions, Barry?
Yeah, I got a few. Jerry, we brought this up, I don't know how long ago. We did $300,000 originally or something like that.
200 for this contract, 200 and some. Mm-hmm.
And we were going to employ a bunch of people, or we're going to try to train some people. Mm-hmm. What's the results? What do we know that's happening?
This is an ongoing contract. Last year they ran the contract, and I don't have those right off. Maybe Cheryl has some of those, but this is a continuation. We're in the middle of the contract this year, and what it was, the contract was awarded, and then we reconciled the year-end funds, and there was capture or rollover funds available to augment the current training contracts, and that's what we're doing here with this current contract. So currently, right now, there's out of the original contract of 30, and we've increased that to 40, 23 enrollments are currently in education programs, from dental assistant to front and back office medical assistant and so forth, and they're working towards their certificated program at this point in time is what's going on here.
Right, okay. So do we know if anybody's been employed after this training? Do we know that after we spend a couple $100,000?
Oh, yeah.
It's pretty expensive training.
We have standards. Our goals for the Workforce Investment Board has to have approved standards, and our placement rate is 80% out of all our training programs that we do with our programs here. So we have to meet that threshold in order to maintain our good standing with the state. So we're at an 80% placement rate out of our training programs today.
Okay. It sounds like we're spending about, what, $5,000 or $10,000 per person?
This will be,
training?
training will be $4,100 per person.
$4,100. And they're trained for a period of?
It varies by the program. Some programs are up to a year in length. Some are shorter than that, and it varies based on the program that they're in.
Yeah, I guess I'm just wondering what are results. I mean, for $4,000 or $5,000, you can almost go to Channel Islands for a year, right? I mean, the basic tuition, and I guess I'm trying to understand: are we getting the result? There's only a little bit of money we have. Are we getting results for this? That's what I'm. As we continue to put money in here, are we going to get a result? And people are trained, they're doing, or is there something else we should do? Sometimes I struggle with, if programs are great, fund them, really do a good job. If they're not, let's find a new way to do it. So I'm just trying to understand what we're doing here.
Well, sure. And for example, the placement goal will be about 80% or higher associated with it. And so the issue and the comparability is not the same to say that they just go to an education institution. In many regards, these are focused now, and the emphasis now is to put people in trainings in which they don't just get a skill, but they get a certificate of competency out of that. So that's one focus associated.
Is that the
with
80% thing you're talking about, that piece? That's 80%?
80% is our placement that we want to, people that go through the certificated program, that they will be placed in a job associated with the training that they're going for.
Okay. That's our goal. And
Yes.
then we meet that goal on a regular basis?
Yes, in total, because this is one program of many different programs with the Workforce Investment Board at this point in time.
I understand that.
And yes, we're at an 80% placement rate today.
Okay. In what they're trained for?
In the training, yes, associated with what they're.
So if I train to be a
looking
dental assistant, I become a dental assistant at least 80% of the time? Okay.
Michael, and then, or
Just a question regarding, this is open to anyone in the county, even though it's out of Ventura
Yes.
College?
for. Yeah.
Because I know it's
This
been...
is a Ventura Adult School.
Okay, yeah, right. And then the adult school, Canal Valley Adult School, had a program that we helped that not only trained them, but also provided a service to the community. So I know wherever we can get these kind of win-wins, they ended up, learning how to do, I guess, some diagnostics and learning how to use the equipment, but they are also helping the community and giving them inoculations and all those kind of benefits. So it's great to see those kind of win-wins. But if these people come out and are able to get a job because of that training, that's the biggest thing that we can do.
it's
towards helping people out of
OJT, right,
poverty.
on the job training?
There's a component of on-the-job training for some of these that have need experience in the work environment, so they'll transition into on-the-job training. The majority of these are certificate programs, and an individual is working with them to transition them into a job at the culmination of their training.
And they end up with a certificate.
Yeah, and so we enroll individuals in here. Many of them have certain barriers associated with their history of employment. Some are undereducated to begin with, and some have limiting factors. We have disability factors and other things that we're working with in the enrollments here.
Go ahead, Peter.
I think Supervisor Parks brought up something. Is there a reason why we're not doing it in the East County at all? There's some other,
We do. We actually did support a program that I asked for the Conejo Valley Unified School District
Right.
Adult Ed,
Right,
and they are doing that now.
yeah, but is there more, or, it seems like everything's focused up here. It's a lot hard for a lot of those people to get up here to try to do this. Is there, just where you have the training?
Well, this is where the capacity is in this. We don't ignore the East. We do run programs, but this particular is for this one here. So in the past, we bought equipment for Conejo and other school programs, semi-adult school, and so from time to time, those programs start and get enhanced, and then kind of go through a cycle at this point in time.
So what's my qualification to get into this versus anybody can get in?
No, you have to meet the eligibility requirements of the Workforce Investment Act. There's two main sources of funding. There's what's called adult training dollars as well as dislocated training dollars. So dislocated worker would be an individual that has been recently laid off in a period of time, maybe is on unemployment and those type things, and is unlikely to return to the occupation that they left, or has certain barriers associated with returning to that occupation, and then they would qualify under a dislocated worker. In addition, displaced, what we call displaced homemakers, or a single mom who has not had long work history in there would also qualify under this, that needs to enter into the workforce there. The adult funding with it, our target population is those with barriers and mainly low-income individuals, either are under educated and have barriers associated with education needs, or are in low-income standings will qualify for those funds there.
So, Barry, that certificate becomes part of the resume
Absolutely.
for future work and so forth.
Yes.
So, I just look at putting so much money in, but do you believe this is a really high-quality program that really is giving effectiveness to what that we're spending $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 a person on? I mean, to really train them up. At the end of the day, I don't think the taxpayer says we're training somebody, they're going to be productive in the society. We're very generous people. I just want to understand if this is, because when I got this, there wasn't a lot of information with it, and I just struggle with throwing money and just keep throwing money at things when we don't have any understanding of what's really gone on with this deal.
Yeah, because we're in the middle of this in augmentation, so the outcomes haven't been completely realized at this point. But historically, we have run programs associated with education training, in particular like medical assistants, medical front office workers, and yes, they do have a significant impact in the sense that without that training or that investment in that individual, they would not likely been employed in a stable or long-term job associated with the skill set that they had prior to coming into a program like that.
Right. And we followed these people to see how they've done 2, 4,
Yes, we
6,
have a
8.
retention under this. We have retention requirements. Under what we have funding for is a 6-month following the exit of the program that we then mark them through wage data records from EDD. Are they still employed? And we have a retention standard that we have to maintain as well.
After 6 months.
Yeah, it's a 6-month after exit,
Right.
yes.
Do we know anything past that? I mean, not the idea they're at the same place. Maybe they went to this dental place and didn't work quite, but I'm in the dental field 5 years later, and this has really really changed my life.
We have not done that because we have no means by which to do a longitudinal study such as that. And so but the window or horizon isn't that we just go through a training program and exit them and say we're done with the training. You know, we have a placement obligation and performance as well as a retention period of 6 months. So that we do perform very high as an entity for Ventura County in those standards. We're one of the highest performing in this state as far as that goes. So our success rate is in the high 70s of retention as well as 80 in placement as far as employing individuals.
Barry. Let me see. Steve?
A few things. Fair questions and good questions. A peak performing organization always is trying to make sure that we're maximizing the bang for our dollars. And so I appreciate the question. It's appropriate for us to always be trying to push. At the same time, I would offer this. We use a comparison with Cal State Channel Islands. If we could give Cal State Channel Islands $4,000 and give them and have them take our underemployed who have challenges, not just the normal high school graduate that's a good student, but the underemployed that have challenges, and have them have an 80% success rate at getting them placed into a job, I think we would all jump at it. And that's really, if you just look at it, that's really what we have here. So I think always keep trying to give us more and more evidence that what we're investing in makes sense. I see our Workforce Investment Board coordinator back there kind of on the edge of her seat. Is there something you really want to say about this program?
I'd have to believe that that kind of information on the longitudinal, the successes, has to come either from the source of the funding, the long-term source of Workforce Investment Act funding. I'm sure there's lots of data to look at.
Just a couple of quick comments. This is truly a demand-driven program. We focus on what the employer needs are and also the workforce needs. The Workforce Investment Board is a collaborative of people from labor, education, business, economic development, community-based organizations of Ventura County, and I want to assure you that the priorities that are established by that board are based on local demand, and we do not want to train people for jobs that aren't there. So the investment that is put into any kind of training really is to focus in on getting people jobs on the back end and make sure that they're good jobs. So that's a priority. Also, in terms of coverage for the county, this happens to be one provider that does provide across the county, but through our Business and Employment Services Department and the Job and Career Centers, these opportunities are provided geographically throughout the county to multiple entities.
Great. That's helpful information. Thank you very much. And the final thing I just want to say is I want to thank Barry for voting today. I see your little lapel sticker.
First thing,
I see
7
Brian with his lapel sticker on back there also. So thank you both for doing your civic duty. Take care.
Thank you, Barry. Any other questions? Okay, we got a motion here.
Oh, you're voting. Just to reinforce, I think Cheryl said it too, but the WIB identifies areas that are hard to recruit for local businesses, and healthcare is certainly one of them. We hear about nursing shortages and so forth, but there's a real shortage of ancillary staff like radiology technologists, respiratory therapists, and so forth. So they really do a lot of work up front to identify those areas where there's shortages and try to meet that demand. So it's
And Barry, I want to say I appreciate where you're going with it. It's just the result. That's my thing, is that we can have all the idea, bring all the people together, we come up with an idea, but we can't get a result. That's my thing. If we're going to spend money, do we have the result that those people are long-term, we've trained them, and they're in a job? That's really the key.
Right, and we do come at an annual report with all the WIB activities, and maybe in that activity we'll profile out these programs in more detail.
To me, that would be wonderful, because a lot of times we just assume things are great, but then all of a sudden you find out 2 years later, did you know that program has a 3% success rate?
Right.
I mean, well, yeah, but the rest of the state only has 2%. Well, why would we do something with 3%?
Right.
I mean, it's like playing baseball.
No, I agree. So we'll commit that we'll break these down in greater details, because normally we come with a higher profile of the annual performances, and so we'll break these down into greater details at the program level.
And Barry, there's other costs too if we don't train those folks too. If the social costs, if we don't, that's other costs that ultimately we're going to pay for regardless.
Sure, absolutely.
And I think that's important too.
Mr. Chair, I just want to get one other thing said. You guys have a big responsibility at HSA, and you have a big mandate, and I think there must be times when you sit there and go, so you come with the $319,000 and it's just like there's always something else. And I just want you to know, I recognize there's always something else. The mission is so big that there's always more that we can point out that we hope you can do.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I just hope you can keep yourself and your troops motivated as you take on all these challenges.
Yeah, thank you for that. We don't shy away if we need correction, if we need improvement, we should shoot for that. And I think the staff has taken on that attitude tremendously to say that we can always incrementally do better. So I appreciate the focus and the attention. It's work's being recognized, so that's important. So thank you.
There's a lot of great work going on. I just think as a taxpayer, and you too, do I want my money? There's so many needs. Does this really work?
Sure.
I could make a
And
comment.
Supervisor Foy, if you get a chance, and you come out to Conejo Valley, and let's take a visit of this one wellness center that they have there, because it is probably one of the best programs I've seen that we have in our area, because it does not only just give them the education that you get at a university, you're actually getting hands-on experience.
Which I think is probably more
and they've got
important.
a line right into the medical community that are like calling and asking for these people, and they're training them for what they're needed.
That's what I'm hoping we get to
It's a
see
very
in these
rewarding
kind of things.
program, because they go from not being employed to being employed in a career that actually has demand in it. So it's just very well focused.
No, I 100% agree. I just wish we saw more of that in what we get.
And I think you need one in your community too. Right? And this is one of those programs that we want to have. It's just it really is a shining one that I think we need in each of our districts at least.
I'll vote for it.
Come back with a proposal for your district.
Thank you so much. Okay. Thank you, Barry. Okay. Oh, I need 12. Okay, that's approved. Thank you, Barry. Our next item is 26, Supervisor Parks. Item 26.
This item is requested at the Board of Supervisors approve adding actually just a very small precinct that is in Santa Rosa Valley, but we discovered actually isn't part of the jurisdiction of the Municipal Advisory Council there. So this is requesting that we, I'll go ahead and make a motion, that we allow for this other smaller precinct that has a lot of homes in it, nonetheless, in the Santa Rosa Valley, is included into the Municipal Advisory Council's jurisdiction.
Okay. Got a first and a second.
And our appreciation to the Elections Division for assisting us with this, too.
And that's approved. Thank you so much. Item 27, Supervisor Long. The reappointment of District 3.
Yes, I'd ask for the board's support. I'm willing to serve.
You've been,
We use this, we annually use this time to thank Supervisor Long.
That's right.
For the amount of time she spends at CSAC and going up to Sacramento, so we appreciate it.
Thank you.
how many years now,
And
Supervisor?
since dawn. Thank you, and I appreciate the support and willing to serve, and I think I try my best to bring value back to the county with the work we do at CSAC and the affiliations we have with those who interact with CSAC. I think that we've got an exciting new executive director stepping in, and particularly with our challenge under AB 109, will be a great leader for us. So thank
Well,
you.
consistency of leadership right now is important with a new executive director and with all the challenges coming from the state.
And
you
you're
know,
the-
passing on to the county.
You're the chair of the urban, aren't you?
No, not currently.
Not currently.
Have been, but thank you.
Michael?
I just had a comment a few months ago when I was at a CSAC conference, and one of the board members from up north said on the CSAC board, there's 3 people he really listens to when they speak, and Kathy was one of them. So it's not a schmooze, just the facts.
Thank you so much. Okay. So, approved, okay. Item 28. Okay. It's this correspondence item. Okay. And that's approved, and then we have the addendum, item 29, the Sheriff's Continuum of Care, or plan.
Good morning, Chair Zaragoza,
Good morning.
board members, Mr. Powers. For the record, Kelly Shirk, County Executive Office, Human Resources. Before you today is a letter to ask you that you grant sworn safety management employees to the ability to enroll in the VCDSA union-sponsored medical plans in addition to the county-sponsored plans. We are also asking that you adopt the amendments to the flexible plan document, and we would like to move forward at this time due to open enrollment that's currently going on for our county employees. With your approval today, we can notify the managers and amend their open enrollment materials, which will help us not have to do a special open enrollment, which is time-consuming. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions?
Move the item.
Okay, we got a first and a second.
Thank you.
Thank you, and that's approved. And now we got item 30. Supervisor Long.
Yes. Let me pull that up because I don't have it in front of me. Thank you. Thank you, board members. This is asking your support to appoint Mark Andrew Austin to the Parks Advisory Commission. Have an opening there, and as you can see in the board letter, Mr. Austin holds 2 degrees in natural resource management, parks and recreation management. Very willing to serve. Think he'll make a great appointment, and that's my motion.
Okay. Okay, that's approved. And we have about 9 minutes before the time certain, so we'll take a 9-minute break. Okay. So we'll be on break. We'll go to closed session. Do we have any announcements?
No, we will not have any announcements, Mr. Chair.
We'll go to closed session. We'll be back in about 10 minutes. Thank you. Okay, we're back from closed session, and we don't not have any announcements. And our next item is a presentation of the 2012-13 Ventura County United Way Annual Poster Contest. And Mr. Mark Barella.
Good morning. Happy
Good morning.
Election Day. For the record, Mark Farella, Chief Probation Officer, Mr. Chair, members of the board, Mr. Powers. I am here once again on behalf of the County of Ventura's United Way annual campaign to introduce our poster winners for this year. And I'm going to call them up, and you have a poster, the winning poster, that I passed out to each of you, along with the second, third place in the adult category and our first place in the children's category. So I'm going to ask them to come up, and so that way you could meet them and congratulate them. First is Carrie Dittmar, who is our overall winner. I'm proud to say that Carrie is the wife of Ken Ditmar, who's a probation agency employee. I did not know that until afterwards. So.
Is that what you want?
I did know. So, Carrie, come on up.
Congratulations.
So we need Paul McCarthy's song playing in the background here, about Imagine.
So Carrie gets a certificate that's signed by me, and she gets a check for $100.
Oh, fantastic.
Right over there, please. Second place winner, and you have a copy of it, is this beautiful picture of this castle. And remember, the theme this year is Imagine What We Can Do Together. Nicely done. And it was won by Shelley Lloyd, who happens to be the daughter of Susan, an RMA employee. Susan is here, so Susan, come on down. For Shelley, and Shelley wins a $50 check.
Fantastic.
Hand over there. Sure. Our third place winner in the adult category, and I don't see Christina Bertelson here. She's a district attorney. Oh, she is there. Oh, Christina, sorry. Christina's a district attorney investigator. She's a third place winner, and it is the picture of the world, and you have that as part of your packet. So congratulations. Christina wins a $25.
All right.
And in the children's category, our winner is Taylor Paredes Zumwalt. So Taylor, come on up. She is the granddaughter of Pablo, who works for IT Services. So come on up. So give you your certificate, and as the winner for the children's category, she gets a $100 check. So.
All right. Good.
So if you can come on over here, and here's a picture of her entry. You guys have a copy of that? Beautifully done. So these are your poster award winners for this year's annual campaign, and I just wanted to congratulate all of you and thank you for entering in such good artwork. We have our county family and our county employees and their families are very, very talented. So thank you very much. And
Mark, can we take a photo with them?
Absolutely.
Well, good. Congrats, Dominic.
I'm going to take two.
The pledge cards will be coming out to all county employees, and I will report back and let you know how we did on our annual campaign. Thank you very much.
Mark, thank you. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Okay, so our next item is, this is a resolution, Mike, is Mike here? Mike? This is a resolution from the Board of Supervisors honoring the County of Ventura veterans on Veterans Day, November 11th, whereas on November 11th, 1918, an armistice went into effect between the Allied nations and Germany and France to end the hostilities between countries and to commemorate the call, the end to all wars, now known as World War I. And whereas on November 19th, President Woodrow Wilson proclaimed November 11th as the first commemoration of the Armistice Day, and whereas on May 13, 1938, Congress made the 11th of November of each year a legal holiday to be dedicated to the World War veterans, and also caused the world peace to be thereafter celebrated, known as Armistice Day. And where on June 1st, 1954, the 83rd Congress, at the urging of the Veteran Service Organizations, amended the Act of 1938 to change the name of Armistice Day to Veterans Day. And then November 11th became the day to honor American veterans of all wars. Whereas American veterans from County of Ventura have courageously served the country in World War II and the Korean War, the Vietnam War, Operation Desert Storm, Iraq, Afghanistan, and other important military operations around the world. Now, therefore, be resolved that the Ventura County Board of Supervisors takes great pleasure in honoring veterans of the County of Ventura for their love of the country, their willingness to serve, and for their sacrifices to protect our families and to keep us safe. And this is presented to you on the 6th day of November. And I'll be down today.
Well, thank you, Board of Supervisors. I certainly appreciate that for honoring veterans. There's 50,000 veterans within the county, so it's an honor for me to represent them in accepting the proclamation. I just have a couple other comments, if I could. Veterans Day, of course, is intended to honor and thank all military personnel as well as veterans for their service to the United States. Our veterans, they've answered the call, and they've done so with honor. I think each American should pay tribute to these men and women who exemplify strength, courage, and a willingness for self-sacrifice. We must also recognize our military families because of the strength that they demonstrate on a daily basis as they face some challenges and overcome some challenges and experiences that are unique to militaries or families of military members. As we celebrate Veterans Day, it's a time for Americans to recognize the freedoms that we enjoy are not free. The only reason they endure is because of the sacrifice, commitment, and the willingness to endure hardship, and in some cases make that ultimate sacrifice to preserve our nation for future generations. So on Veterans Day, we should pay tribute to our veterans, the fallen, and their families. As a veteran and American, I'd like to personally thank all veterans and their families for their service and their sacrifice to our great nation. This country owes them a profound debt of gratitude, and we certainly need to follow through on the promised care and the benefits that they have so hard earned. Every day should be Veterans Day. Thank you again to the Board of Supervisors and for all in attendance for honoring our heroes, our veterans.
Thank you.
Well, we should, absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, what's your next one? Roberta? 19.
Good morning, Mr. Powers, Mr. Chairman, members of the board.
Good morning.
Bob Hanson, Chief Investment Officer. Steve Hintz, Treasurer Tax Collector. Bertha Lopez, a member of our portfolio group.
The brains behind the operation. Okay.
Absolutely. Honestly, for sure. And she even dressed up as Batwoman on Halloween and won the contest. Well, this is board letter number 220 for me. So I think back to February of '01.
Wow.
6.59 rate of return and wondering if it would go to 7. That was the high. Anyway, regarding yields now.
7, you're hoping for 0.7 now, aren't you?
I'd take, yes, anything with a handle I'd take. Recently, just to let you know where rates are, I bought some 6-month paper at 0.24. I went out on the curve as far as I can go with the board-approved policy to 0.50, so that's an average of about 0.37. You see the yield that we earned this month. We have about $1 billion coming due in 2013, so that will continue to soften the blow as we head in the direction of LAIF, which is right now about 0.35, and we're at 0.67. So it's not going to last forever, but we're creeping down, and we still have one more year. Everything I read says that rates will not do anything until 2016. I'm still cautious. There's a lot of things that will be up in the air after the election. Will the tax cuts expire? Will the debt ceiling get renewed? The TAG program for FDIC deposits, which guarantee bank deposits above $250,000. If that's not renewed, that'll be about $1.4 trillion coming into the market to buy securities. if that happened hypothetically, you could have probably almost 0% interest rates because that money would go into investments. If the guarantee above $250,000 is lifted, I don't think they'll lift it. It would be too chaotic. Other than that, this is boring, this report. I'm happy. I'm really happy there's no people in here because I saw a video of Orange County and I'll never forget it. They had people out in the hallways and everything else, so boredom is good. And the rating is still tops.
Mr. Chair?
Thank you, Bob.
Two things. One, do we have the data on what the Lathe average yield is and median yield in terms of duration? I mean, we know what their yield is. You said, 0.34, but
Average days to maturity.
Average days to maturity by comparison to our portfolio's average days to maturity. You don't have to have that right now, but could you get that for me, please?
How far back would you like to go? Sure.
Up the last 3 years.
Great.
If you could. And where it is right now and where it's been for the last 3 years. The second thing is the idea that rates are going to stay steady until 2016, given the number of potential major issues that are out there, the financial cliff that is coming, when it moves, it's going to move very quickly, and it's just going to take a little bit for foreign investors to say, hey, they don't want to put money into the United States Treasury market any longer, and those rates are really going to move quickly when that happens. Who knows when that's going to happen, but it is going to happen at some point in time.
And it could happen the way it happened for poor President Carter, where we were selling 5% 2-year notes. I was, probably to Ventura and everyone. And all of a sudden, within a very few months, 2-year notes were 20%. And for those of you that don't remember, of course, that's when we were waiting in line for gas and everything else. And that happened so quick.
Okay, Bob, thank you.
I didn't talk about real estate because I'm still bullish.
It's going up.
Yeah, I'm bullish.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you so much. Okay, so we got a first and a second. Okay.
You're going to come jumping for joy when you hit that 1% sometime again, aren't you?
Thank you so much. And item 20 has been continued, so item 21, and that's
Good morning, Chair Zaragoza, members of the board, Mr. Powers. For the record, my name is Charles Alvarez. I'm with the Public Works Agency Real Estate Services Division, and I'm filling in this morning for Keith Filligard, the Division Manager. The item before your board is approval of the purchase agreement and escrow instructions for the purchase of a replacement fire station site in the city of Fillmore. The existing fire station site, Station 27, was constructed in the early 1950s and does not meet current code requirements or the operational needs of the Fire Protection District. The proposed replacement site is a 4.93-acre vacant parcel located at the northwest corner of River and C Streets in the city of Fillmore. This is a bank-owned property. It was originally listed for $1,050,000. The real estate services staff negotiated a purchase price of $700,000, which we believe represents fair market value. The total cost to purchase the property is estimated at $710,000, which includes $10,000 in closing costs. That concludes my presentation on this item. Chief Lorenzen and I are available to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Any questions?
I have some questions for the Chief, please. Sure. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for being here.
Sure.
What's the average length of life for a fire station like this?
Generally, what we're expecting is 50 years is our rule of thumb, and we can extend that occasionally by doing some significant remodeling.
I just want to get on the record as we're beginning this process, and I know we're just beginning this process in terms of the fire station. Energy costs are going to go through the roof over the next 50 years, and I just think it's absolutely essential that we not just pay lip service to energy conservation when we build another fire station, but that we don't put a small solar in, we oversize the solar, we overdo, that we really have this be the beginning of a really strong commitment on the part of the fire department to have good energy conservation. It's one of those things that will pay huge dividends in the long run, even though it may be some cost to us right now.
I agree. And our last two fire stations that we just finished construction on were both to the LEED Silver standards, and we will keep continuing with that. And like you said, anything that we can do for sustainability, we're on board, absolutely.
Thank you very much.
And this is a short sale, is that what it is?
Short sale.
Well, or
Yeah, the foreclosure has been finished, so it's bank on now.
the bankrupt?
Bank on.
Bank on.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, just to say that in this area, there's potential for Fillmore with the business park, the economy turns, things start to move. But the location of this new station will just be, I think, critical, important, much better placed in the community than the old station. And the chief and I have talked about, what we may look at for the use in the old station. So I think the location of this is valuable for the community and for the corridor, frankly. So it's a good buy. I'd move the recommended action.
Okay, we got a first and a second. Okay. Thank you. That's
Thank
approved.
you.
Thank you so much. Okay, Roberta, we are done, so we are adjourned.
Go vote, go vote.
Go vote. Vote, vote,
Vote
vote.
often.